We're in Job chapter 50, and chapter 40, I mean. Don't think there's a 50, but we're in Job chapter 40, and we're looking at God who had given Job the opportunity to respond to him after God has demonstrated his splendor and his greatness. And Job has nothing to say. He has nothing to contend with God. So God picks up the dialogue again in verse 6, and he begins to again address Job pretty strongly, much along the lines of what he has done in chapters 38 and 39. He's going to go, by the time he gets to verse 15, he's going to go back to creation and the things he's created. But before he gets there, he is going to once again show Job that he has taken a wrong step. He's not quite done with Job. Job still has some more things to correct, apparently, in his thinking. In verse 6, he said, "The Lord answered Job out of the storm and said, 'Now gird up your loins like a man, and I will ask you, and you instruct me.'" So Job, if you want to teach me some things, here's your chance, right? Well, Job is already humbled, but apparently he needs just a little bit more. "Will you really annul my judgment? Will you condemn me that you may be justified? Or do you have an arm like God, and can you thunder with a voice like his?" Now, Job, you earlier in your dialogues with your friends, you were condemning me so you could be justified. We can do that, can't we? We want to justify ourselves even in the eyes of God, or at least in the eyes of ourselves. And what do? Well, we in essence put God down. Well, God says, "Is that what you want to do?" Well, let's press on. Job, you need to examine your own limitations. I've shown you, God says, my unlimitedness. I have no boundaries. But what about you, Job? Verse 9, he says, "Do you have an arm like God?" Verse 10, "Adorn yourself with eminence and dignity, and clothe yourself with honor and majesty. Pour out the overflowings of your anger, and look on everyone who is proud and make him low. Look on everyone who is proud and humble him, and tread down the wicked where they stand. Hide them in dust together. Bind them in the hidden place." Now, I'm going to stop there because now God is saying, look, can you do all this stuff, Job? Now look what I can do. I've shown you what I can do. Now what can you do? Can you deal with all the things that happen in this world around you? Can you deal with the wicked? Can you deal with the proud? Can you handle the issues of life like I can, Job? So Job, I want you to look at yourself. You are a great man. We've seen that earlier. Perhaps the greatest man on the earth at that time. Not only in wealth and so forth, but probably in dignity and in godliness, in his desire to follow the Lord. Job has a lot going for him, and we saw that early on. But there was something in his heart, I think, all along. I don't think his problems caused him to change. I think in his heart all along was this issue of pride. Pride is perhaps the greatest of all sins, if we want to categorize them, if we can categorize them that way. We want to think so highly of ourselves and so lowly sometimes of other people, and sometimes even bringing God down to our level. Satan fell because he was proud. People fall because they're proud. Job had in his heart, apparently, an element of pride in which yes, God had given him much, and he appreciated that, but somehow he deserved that. Somehow God had blessed him because he was such a wonderful and great guy. And Job elevated himself, and whenever we elevate ourselves, we bring God down to our level instead of magnifying him to the level that we should. John the Baptist said it best, he must increase and I must decrease. What an attitude John had. That's the right one. That's what Job needs to see. And the Lord said, I've not seen that in you, Job. And so in verse 14, when you can do all that, when you can do all these wonderful things you think you can do, but you can't, then, verse 14, I will also confess to you that your own right hand can save you. Job, if you are as great as you think you are, then I will confess to you. I'll bow before you, so to speak, and you can save yourself. But the truth is, he couldn't do that either. He couldn't do that. In all of Job's greatness and all of his wisdom and all of his might, Job could not save himself. And neither can you or I. We do not have that power to save ourselves. That is a gift of God through Jesus Christ that we receive by faith alone, trusting in Him for salvation. Job couldn't save himself. Job didn't have all the answers of life. God has those answers, and God is our Savior. Job needs to see that. But God has a few more things to teach Job before we get to the end of our book. So I hope you can join us next week as we press on in the book of Job.